Hi everyone. The purpose of this video is to, I'll share a link in the description for you to basically have my spreadsheets I use to determine the intrinsic valuation of any company. It's free, have at it. I'm providing it after several requests here. There is another one. Now, in this video, I'll provide that link, and I'm going to provide you with a quick how-to, like a quick little guide, and then you can, have at it. Now, I will point out that as usual, I always put this little disclaimer here, and the reason is I want you to understand that basically I'm giving you the caveat is I'm giving you information the way I see it. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to do whatever it is you want. And when I see comments like this, I mean, I think this is the first one I've ever seen. But when I see stuff like this, I mean, especially when literally it seems that the person has misunderstood the video. I mean, remember, you're the one pulling the trigger in your account, so you be accountable. Don't follow what I'm telling you. Think about it. Think about what everybody else is telling you, and you make your own decisions. And I'll provide the spreadsheet. If that helps you, then great. If you make some money, don't forget to make a little donation to a good cause. And if you lose some money, don't forget you're the one that pulled the trigger. So let's get into it. So this here will be the actual sheet that I'll share. I'll basically put a link to this, and I'll make sure I know how to share it, and then you can have free access to it. I basically copied the Verizon sheet, right here. This is Verizon, and all I did is I removed some of this junk and other things that I'm using, and that's what you get, right? So basically, same numbers here as you can see as here, okay? Now, this is the sheet that you'll often see me use, and I'm going to go through it quickly in a second. But if you haven't seen me, I sometimes will use the rest of this stuff here. Okay, so if you keep going here, there's a whole bunch more stuff. So this is a far more complicated sheet. Here it is. I call it the scalpel in. There, it's linked to all these other sheets, and then you get an output here, the scalpel out. There it is. This is so to give you an idea, the first sheet is quite simple. You can use it for your simple companies, relatively normal state. For your growth companies where you have a lot more assumptions, you can use what I call my scalpel sheet. So let's start with the simple intrinsic valuation sheet, a discounted cash flow model. Big caveat, remember the numbers that you put in here, you got to use what's between your ears. You got to use your own mind to come up with the numbers. You got to fact check the numbers that you're going to put in here, and you got to really think about the sources. Don't forget, a spreadsheet is not a replacement for, good solid thinking. All right? But having said that, I'm going to kind of guide you through how I use it. All right? So you have these are basically where you can see start with these inputs: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And basically you put the inputs in here. I'm going to show you how I go through it. So first of all, put in the shares outstanding. An easy way to find it is just through a simple company like Yahoo, right? And you can find it like shares outstanding, right there, and in it goes. All right, now you want to find, the next thing is you want to find their net cash position. And again, for something like that, you can go to their balance sheet, financials, balance sheet. You want to find total, within total liabilities, somewhere you will find basically, you can find their current liabilities, so current debt. You want to find their total non-current liabilities. This is their long-term debt. You want to add all that, okay? And what you want to do is you want to find how much cash they have. Okay, this is the line. All right, so you want to do something like cash minus all debt, and you plug that number in here. All right, now your year one free cash flow. All right, so with this one here, you can even find that. All right, so there you go, like free cash flow. There it is. It's available. But again, another caveat here. Remember, with free cash flow, you really want to think about what is a representative cash flow. As you can see, well, this company here, for example, are you going to take this number? Are you going to take this number, right? So you can see that that will produce, one number is almost more than double the other, so it will produce a very different result. Again, use your mind. And it's funny that I have to put these caveats, but again, make sure you're putting in good, solid numbers that you've thought about here. Okay, so the free cash flow, all right, goes in here, 21.45, and that number, I believe, was, oh, there it is. Okay. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put in some growth rates. All right, a source for some growth rates, if you want a starting point, could be, again, Yahoo analysis, go all the way down. There you go. Right, 2.92. That's where you see this come from. All right, the growth rate for the next, 6 to 10 years. Figure that out and put in a number that you like. The discount rate. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how I go about it. If you want, there's multiple ways to put in a risk-free rate or a discount rate in there, but this is the number that you're going to discount your cash flows by. What I usually like to do is I will take a good rate that I think you can get, such as a 10-year bond. That is the way Warren Buffett sort of started going about it and explained. I like that method. You can put a much larger number, and the idea behind there is you can put the return you want. So for example, if you want a 10% yield, you're going to put a 10% number in there, and that will affect your sheet. So for example, you put 10 here, as you could see, it causes the price to go down that you should get the stock at. All right, so that's one way of going about it. Again, you can play with it. Now finally, you need to put your terminal multiples here. So with the terminal multiple, this is similar to a price earnings ratio. So basically you want to find a price free cash flow ratio. And what I will often do is I'll look at historical price to free cash flow ratios for a company. I will look at comparable companies. I will look at, and again, each company, it depends. It really depends what you're going to put in here. Okay, and that's why I've been so hesitant to sort of share this, because it could mislead you. But again, if you know what you're doing, only use the stuff you know you're doing. But basically, let's say you start with a company that's very small and you believe it will graduate, and in 10 years it will look into a much different company. Well, use a similar company, right? So you have a little company like today, like let's say you use Apple 20 years ago. Well, you may not want to use a price free cash flow multiple of a high growth company. You may want to use one that's for a more mature company. Anyway, knock yourself out. Use numbers that you want, but that's the last input. And what this sheet will do then, okay, is it will take those free cash flows, okay, here, it will grow them at this rate, it will discount it at this rate, right, meaning reduce it, and then at the end, it will give you a business sale price where you basically take the present value of that free cash flow, multiply that by that number, all right? That's how you get here. It will then add or subtract the cash that's required. Sorry, free cash flow here, that's, let me try that again. It will add all this free cash flow that gets you to here. It will then add this part here. So any cash minus debt, and it gives you this number, right? And then if you want a margin of safety of 50%, there it is. And if you like it in terms of yield, if you like to think in terms of yield, here's your inflation adjusted yield. The inflation adjusted yield comes from here. Or if you just want a nominal number without inflation adjustment, then it comes from there. Is that complicated? I hope that sort of makes sense. Again, play with the sheet, but I can't emphasize enough, be careful. Don't just rely on a spreadsheet. Make sure you're putting in solid numbers. If the spreadsheet will spit out numbers based on what you put into it. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, now I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of what I call my scalpel. And this is what I use for this is what I will use for a growth company where there's a lot of uncertainty. If I'm trying to understand something like an Uber coming to market, if I'm trying to just understand this new tech company. And I will tell you this right now. It's important to give credit where credit is due. I initially took this this spreadsheet from Aswath Damodaran. He's a professor of finance. He has, if you YouTube him, you will see all sorts of how-to videos that are going to go into amazing amount of depth. This is just a primer, right? So if you YouTube him, you will find videos that he's put out that will explain this far better than me. And in those videos, you'll see him go through spreadsheets like this. But I will quickly explain this to you. Essentially, you have multiple spreadsheets here that determine cost of capital. So if you are familiar with cost of capital or weighted average cost of capital uh, calculations, and if you've studied finance, you'll understand this. So in any case, it is far more complicated, and be careful with this sheet especially. It takes into account equity risk premium, okay? And if you're not familiar with these terms, betas, you got to be basically, here's what I'm trying to say. You got to be careful. Watch Ask Watts' video. He will explain in detail how to use this spreadsheet. And remember, too little information on something that you may not understand is a dangerous thing. Having said that, I'll quickly run you through how I use it. Here are basic inputs, right? So, tax rates, interest expenses, country of incorporation, simple stuff, okay? The value drivers are here, okay? This is where you put revenue growth rates, operating margins, growth rates, years of convergence. Play with this, you'll understand. These market numbers, these risk-free rates and initial cost of capital come from here. Okay, so this sheet and the rest going this way are all linked. All right. It even talks about employee options. Okay, and then there are default assumptions. Understand, making any changes on any of these inputs will have drastic differences on the output. Let's take a look at the output. As you can see, the output is far more far more detailed, right? You can see that revenue growth rates can change year to year, right? They change. You can see that it takes into account EBIT, tax rates, reinvestment costs, free cash flow, right? And then cost of capital. So from here down, it's similar to the previous sheet, okay? But it takes into account far more detail, all right? And if you were to click on, for example, some of these cells, you'll be able to see the embedded formulas to understand what's going on if you are aware of Excel or Google Sheets. But the ultimate point is it will spit out a value, okay? And you can essentially calculate that based on that value, whether you believe price is undervalued or not, all right? And again, it takes into account sales to capital ratios, invested capital, return on invested capital. So this sheet is far more detailed. Again, a professor of finance produced this. So use it. Be very careful if you do. That's basically my advice to you. Oh, and I forgot, on the initial sheet, you got to put in a price here, right? So changing this price will have a different effect on your yields, correct? And that's it. So guys, I hope this is helpful. Remember, you're the one who's going to be making the decisions. This is just another tool. If you drop an axe on your foot, that's on you. And don't be this guy over here who not only seems to have misunderstood what this video said, but also is not taking responsibility for their own actions. Don't be that person. Otherwise, I hope this helps you. Have fun with it and have a good day.